the key to that you can do. One of the great things you can do is ask AI to make up jokes. So chemistry jokes are particularly good. AI is particularly good at that. So that's something that I've used AI for, making up dad jokes. And I was very impressed with that one that you started us with. So look, let's get down into it. So AI is here to stay. It was November 22 when ChatGPT 3.5 surprised even the makers of it, how good it was. And so in the middle of last year, July last year, about 11% of students were not telling us the truth about whether they were using AI. 89% admitted to it. Who knows what it'll be, but maybe 30% of jobs will be lost, and most of those will be in white collar, so and even in education, and so that's a big change. At the moment, ChatGPT 4, if students pay for it, would be about 30 of our dollars a month, but hopefully there's some good news to come along that way. As we get there. So some more stats. Look, I guess we're in education here. So the estimate here is, again, from the middle of last year, is that about 30% of hours work will be automated by 2030. And that's education, and that's in the STEM workforce too. So our graduates, the people that we're teaching at the moment, they're going to be starting jobs where a lot of it will be automated. In fact, one of our law firms in the city of Sydney is already giving students an AI test. They have to show that they can use AI well to get a law job at the moment. And our students are also telling us in their Saturday jobs, they're having to use AI. So it's something that we really need to grapple with as universities, not just because of the assessment thing, and I will talk about that, but because it's really going to change the workforce. It's going to change the work that people do. It's going to change our assessments, but these students that we've got at the moment, they're going to be living in the world of AI for 50 years, for the rest of their lives, and who knows what it'll be like by the time they get to the ripe old age of 56, like me. So chemistry is, I guess, a little bit less affected at the moment. There's certainly been a lot of work in drug discovery. It can already knock off days and weeks and years from drug discovery, which is a very expensive business. And so there's been a lot of effort to do that. Molecular prediction, property predictions using machine learning is taking off. Molecular design. You can put all the organic synthesis literature into an AI engine, and you can ask it to do retrosynthesis. So instead of poring over all the journals to work out the steps you should use, you can get the generative AI to predict the reaction conditions and the optimization. And of course, instant analysis of spectroscopic or analytical results is just around the corner, and in some places already being offered. So we need to make sure our chemistry students can use AI. They're going to be using a lot the organic PhD, traditional bench synthesis is going to change. It's going to be robots, and it's going to be computers deciding what reaction conditions to do. A lot cheaper, working 24/7, 365 days of the year. So I guess the biggest effect is the biggest fuss has been around assessment, and so that I could have chosen lots of headlines. In my current role, we get the newspapers writing us almost every day saying that this is the end of universities, this is the end of assessment because the computers can do it all. And our students sometimes say that to us already. This particular study from the Cron said that basically you can pass first year degrees now using ChatGPT. This is a nice article that I like from the Business Insider. It's just really showing the advances that are being made. So ChatGPT can ace the law bar exam already. So ChatGPT 3.5, the one that you might have if you've got a free version, was getting where was it? Was getting at 266. ChatGPT 4 getting 298. ChatGPT 5 probably comes out this year. Is going to be even better at these things. It can do graduate record exams, GREs, that some people might know about in the audience. Again, you can see the difference between ChatGPT 3.5 and 4 is immense. And again, just say that the new technology will come on even quicker. A little less good at maths, a little less good at things like chemistry, where it's got to understand our nomenclature and our way of representing things, but getting better. And you can see in this last one that it's certainly able to do advanced placement exams in chemistry and get things. We put our second year chemistry exams through 3.5, so the cheap, the one that's not as good, and it passed definitely. And to be honest, it probably would have got a credit, 65-70% mark in our exams, without obviously any human intervention at all. So what are students telling us? Well, about half to three-quarters of them are using it. Look, about double the amount of us compared to instructors. So students are a lot more canny and a lot more using it frequently than we are. About three-quarters of current users would use it even if we tell them not to. And so this is clearly something that we need to think about. Students have told us that they want us to talk to them about it. They want to use it, but they want to tell us, they want us to inform them how they should use it and how to be careful and cautious in its use. They're aware of it, but they're really not sure how good it is and whether we think it's good and whether we think it's an appropriate thing for them to use. They do, though, think it is a supplement to us, an additional resource that they can use to their teachers. It saves them time. And they want us to talk to them about it. So if there's one thing you take away, if you've not been talking to your students about the use of AI, please talk to them about it, because they are worried that it's somehow wrong, but they're also aware that they're using it in their Saturday jobs, and they are aware that it's going to affect them for the rest of their lives. And frankly, they also tell us that they can put a lot of our assessments in and get very high marks without really any understanding of what they're doing. So they want us to talk about it. So I assume that people have played a little bit with AI, but I'm just going to show you a few examples of that. So I pulled this from a rubric for a lab report. So it's not a bad little rubric. I've only extracted one little bit. In the conclusion section of experiment on a titration of ascorbic acid, discuss the significance and the reliability of your results and explain why that's important. It's not a bad little rubric because it's contemporary, it's personal, it's authentic, involves the students in what they should do. So I'm just going to tab out of that and go into ChatGPT, copilot.microsoft.com. Most of your institutions are probably Microsoft institutions, and so you as staff members already probably have access to Copilot on Microsoft for the web, and your students also have access to it. In Australia, we're grappling with that one at the moment. We give them Microsoft products for free as part of their enrollment, and at the moment we say they can't use this bit of it, but that's clearly not sustainable. So I'm going to put that, I'm going to say I need to write a lab report. Remember to spell. We worked out the concentration was 0.15 molar. I'm a nutrition student studying chemistry. So doing a live demo, let's see if it works. Okay, so here we go. It does a different answer every time. So I don't know, you're not going to detect this with plagiarism detection software. Has it done any personalization of that? Yes, it's talked about the food and beverage. I remember I told it there was a nutrition student. It sounds a bit computerish, so let's tell it to. The first one I did, if I were to put that into AI detection software, it probably would have come up as being detected as AI, just by telling it to vary the length of the sentences. Our experience is now that the AI detection goes down to often to zero. I reckon that's pretty good. I've only put in one prompt. I've not really told it anything else, and it's done a pretty good job, I think. You'd probably give that a fairly high mark. It's personal. It's got that authentic connection to industry. It's not a bad response, and the AI has done that without me, without the student necessarily having to understand understand anything. If you try that, copilot.com.uk, copilot.microsoft.com, you will find that it can do bits of chemistry. It's not bad at doing it. It's a little bit clunky at the moment, but it's getting better, better, and better. So I reckon that would have got in our marking scheme a distinction or a credit for that lab report without really needing to do anything. So that's available for all of students and staff at Microsoft institutions, of which most of us are. There's basically an AI plugin for almost anything you want to do. This is a little one. I'll show you this really, really quickly. This is from TikTok, which obviously I'm on all the time. It's a little plugin for LMSs like Canvas or Blackboard. It student plugs it into their using Chrome or a browser, and they pay $17 a month, those that can afford it, and it answers MCQs.
In the Harvard Library are using this RN.
So there you go. So that little plugin, you can see what the student did. They just accepted the answers that the AI gave it. Multiple choice questions online are just so doable by AI. It's not, you cannot think of them as secure in any way now. They are definitely just something that there's plugins for. You can get plugins that will turn text into voice. So any presentations that you might give the students to do, they're not necessarily them. If it's a video presentation, you know, what's happening in Hollywood. AI is able to produce sorry, AI is able to produce not just words, not just images, but music, video, spoken word, presentations, and answer questions pretty well. It does produce errors. I didn't check that text that we did for the lab report very well. You might have spotted some errors as you were going along. It can produce errors. It's getting better at that. It makes stuff up a little less than it used to this time 12 months ago. But it's actually important that our students realize that it's not perfect, that it is producing errors, because we want them to take the text and actually criticize and work out what's wrong with it. After all, that lab report they're handing in, if the future is that they're going to produce that with a co-pilot, with an assistant, then we want to make sure that they actually own that, and the thing that they hand in is the thing that actually corresponds to their experimental results. You might be an institution that uses AI detection. I just put it to you that AI detection is one software vendor trying to beat another software vendor, and one will always be 6 months behind the other. And there's a lot more money going into AI than there's going into detection. And the student who just changes the prompts by, as I did, getting it to change the length of the sentences will outwit that AI detection software. So don't rely on AI detection. We actually have to deal with this as educators and not try and block it. So we have at Sydney a two-lane approach to assessment, and many other universities are coming up with this in their policy approach. 2 lanes, so you can imagine this on the highway with 2 lanes. We have most of our assessment in what we call lane 2, and that's where AI is either allowed, encouraged, and the students supported in how they will use it, or it's irrelevant. So in many lab situations, students using AI is not going to help them do that manipulation of the glassware, but it might help them analyze the results that they get. So most assessment in the future will be in this lane 2, and that's where AI is just part of it. Students will be using AI at home to complete their assignments. They'll be using in the lab to help them do their perform research, analyze results, analyze the spectra really, really quickly. Of course, we want to send out graduates, chemistry graduates that know what they're doing. We want to send out doctors. We want to send out dentists who know what they're doing. And so we also need to do assure learning. But assuring learning in the future, assuring learning now is actually going to be really expensive and really difficult. It's really got to be done face to face. anything that's online is completely AI-able. You can translate the words, AI can completely answers and give the words back, all without the human being involved in a detectable way. So short term, the lab is really a great place to be because the lab is all about things that only humans can do or humans and machines can do together. And so I think the lab is somewhere where universities actually need to shift more resources and think about taking more of their assessment into the lab. We're quite used to in the chemistry lab using oral exams, and I think that will be a really good thing to do in the future. So we have lane one, we have that assurance of learning. Because this is expensive, we're not necessarily going to do this in every subject, in every course, in every unit that we call them at Sydney. This is going to be something that we do periodically to make sure the students understand. So this is our bus lane. I don't know if that translates to the four corners of the world, but the bus lane is where there's less traffic because there's less going on here. Most of it's in lane two, and we really concentrate when we actually need to assure students know the things that we graduate them saying that they know. We do that through supervised assessments, and the lab is a perfect place to do that. So just as an example, we're going to have a learning outcome which is to devise an experimental. This is actually sort of similar to one we ran back in the University of Hull, so quite a long time ago. Devise an experimental procedure for testing the tap water at home for common cations, and we want to make a product. We want our students to go through the thinking of making a product that's scalable and easy to use in the home. So we're going to, the students in the lab, in the classroom, but also at home, are going to use things like Copilot to do that research on methods. They're going to use Copilot built apps to analyze spectroscopic results. They're going to use maybe Microsoft 365 or an Adobe product to do some instructions, produce some good instructions for the home user. And what we're going to do is mark them on the way that they use those tools. So we want them to be able to use these tools well. We're not going to necessarily be so worried about the thing that they produce, the instructions that procedure that they produce. It's the way that they go about thinking about that that's important. It's not the product that's important anymore. We want the students to be able to use AI well to produce a product. And then we want to make sure they've done it. So we have an in-class demonstration of this experimental procedure, and then we have some sort of live Q&A with the students to defend their research. A nice balance of using AI well, making sure students can use AI and a variety of AI tools. Along the way, learning the chemistry that they need to know, learning about how to make this product, how to get the public to understand the use of this product, and hopefully we can make sure that at the end, it's them that have done that. So a bit of a flip in the way that we might do our assessment. And look, there's lots of things that you can do with AI for. We've got a little menu here of the kinds of things that AI is really good at. And I think that as I said, the laboratory is a really good place to blend the use of AI with traditional skill building. So it's really important that we get students to use generative AI well. And so at Sydney, we've partnered with a group of students to produce, for those who use Canvas, you can see this is a Canvas site that students produce in partnership with us, how they can use AI, the limitations, the positive things, the negative things about it, and use well. It's really important for every subject, every discipline to be interacting with their students and to be thinking about AI, because this is a life-changing, this is an industrial revolution, possibly bigger than anything we've had before. But we can also use this to help ourselves and help our students more and help reduce our own workload and give students the things to help. So we can put this into Copilot, and we're going to tell Copilot that they're an expert chemistry tutor. One of the things about the prompts that you put into ChatGPT is that you can get some surprising results. If you tell it to be an expert, it will do better. It will produce better outputs. And we want an app for the students that's going to talk about molecular shape, Lewis structures, electronegativity. We're good teachers, and so we know that this app shouldn't be telling the students the answer. When they ask it, when they want to know the answer to something, you don't tell the students the answer. You give them more and more questions to probe, and so they can develop their own understanding. And so you can make yourself a little app with this by putting this into ChatGPT, and it will produce a nice little 24/7 tutor for your students or for you. I use a lot of analogies. Nikita uses jokes. You can get it to create creative analogies. You could ask it for analogies for chemical equilibrium or for intermolecular forces. And again, it would be fairly creative. And I know I might get told off using that word about computer generated materials, but it actually can produce really quite creative analogies that you might not have thought about, and could be quite useful for you when you're doing your classes. Again, it can come up with discussion prompts when you're stuck in the middle of a class for ways to get ideas across. It can be fairly good at producing that kind of thing. One of the best things, one of the real time savers is writing MCQ questions. It can write really good MCQ questions. Again, I'm going to dump this text into Copilot. You notice that we're not just going to ask it to produce multiple choice questions, but there's multiple choice questions that can have feedback. And we've told ChatGPT that we're actually interested in different levels of thinking. So we're going to tell it, we're going to put this extra question on there of Bloom's taxonomy. And so again, if you're going to use the questions it produces, you've got to make sure that you check them because they might not always be right. We're using some strange brackets, but apart from that, not too bad. And you can actually get it to do it in a format that you can upload straight to your LMS. Always say please. Harder to write multiple choice questions at the higher levels of Bloom's, creative, etc. Seems to have settled down with the brackets. Yeah, so a little bit better, a little bit different kind of questions that you can get there. Really quick, really quick. It will produce different questions every time you ask it. It'll never get bored. It's a real time saver. Look, we're going to get it to do an assessment. So we're going to have some learning outcomes. This is one from we've been helping our physics colleagues with. Put in the learning outcomes and ask it to come up with some creative assessment designs. Rubric drafting. So I might grab this one as well. Anybody that's sat like me trying to write a rubric for a lab report could take days and days and days. Oops. So I'm going to grab the helpful text, put it into my friend, Copilot. Now it's an expert higher education academic. I'm going to make it really, really special. It's going to be an absolute expert. I need to write a marking rubric for second year analytical lab. You need to help me generate the rubric rows, the criteria, the columns, and the standards from what we call in Australia from sort of high distinction 85 and above, distinction 75 and above, credit 65 and above, pass 50 and above, and fail. It's gonna ask me questions to help me write a better rubric. If I just ask it to write a rubric, it will be fairly average. What you ask it, you get back. And so it's gonna prompt me as an educator, what are the things that I want in my rubric? So it's asked me to do all those 5 questions for the different. I'm not going to do them all. And I'm only going to do one, but you could sit here for half an hour answering the various things, and it's gone straight to give me something that I could actually, I probably want to spend a little bit longer. What did it do for the data analysis? I asked it, told it about the data analysis, and so it's given me a little bit more detail. Again, that step would have probably taken me 2 or 3 days work, and I've got that just by one prompt. You can see that you can export it as an Excel, and there you've got yourself a lab rubric after a couple of hours work with the computer's help. So really, I think pretty helpful for the kind of tasks that take us as educators quite a long time. It does ask us the kind of prompts that we should be asking ourselves in order to come up with something a little bit better. Okay, so the kinds of prompts that you give dictate the kind of quality of answers that you obtain. So as I said, we're going to tell it to be an expert, and by telling it to an expert, it tends to produce better answers. We're going to tell it to ask me questions in this one, because I know as an educator, if I get asked questions and things to think about one at a time, I can deal with them one at a time and improve what I'm doing. So what I'm doing is setting up a set of prompts or a style of prompts that enables me to make this not just typing into a window and getting random answers, but actually structuring the content that I get back and ensuring that the content I get back is better. And that's exactly what we do as educators when we're talking to students. The way that we ask questions, the way that we present materials, the way that we don't just give them the answers, hopefully, we get better responses and the students develop. Same with us, same with our students. And so this controlling of the way that the AI is being used is something that we can build into agents. So Copilot is just a web interface. You put in, you get back stuff out. You have to know how to prompt it in order to get the quality of output that you want. So an agent has that built in. So this is one that we've developed in-house called Cogniti. And these agents, there's lots because we've developed lots at the university. So there's my chemistry one. So this is my colleague that Alex will know, Toby Hudson from the chemistry school at Sydney. So this is a helper for fundamentals of chemistry. And he's built this little AI agent, this little chatbot, if you like, to help our first year students who've not done chemistry at high school. So we call those fundamentals of chemistry students. They've not done chemistry at high school, and they're often quite lost. And so you can spend a lot of time with them, helping them, but you can't do that at 3 a.m. and you can't do that just before the exam when they actually want help. And so this little helper, the student can access at any time. So what we're going to ask it, what do students in first year struggle about? Okay, so it's producing a little explanation for the students and answer that question. It's not bad. How has Toby done that? Sorry. So here you saw the interface that the students would see. This is what Toby has built. And so he's built in a series of prompts for the student. Actually, I'll show you that he's linked it to a particular document. So you can imagine if this was your lab manual, you could put your lab manual in. It's only going to access the lab manual. It's not going to go off into Wikipedia land. It's going to access the lab manual, and it's going to source the answers that you're going to give to the student from that lab manual. So if you want to ask students, if students want to interact with your lab manual, this is the way to do it. So he's told it a whole lot of things to do and not do. So he's a nice, kind person. So Toby said to be kind to the students, prioritize the truth, don't make things up. We have lots of international students, and so he's got some commands there around using English. He's told them not to write H2O without using subscripts. He could have told them not to give the students the answers. He could have told them, he could have given the rules by which the AI is going to interact with the student. So a really quite powerful tool for controlling as educators, getting the AI to be an extra pair of hands for us, for the students to interact with. So just by setting up those set of rules, and I've already shown you that, so I won't go back and show that again. I will show you one more before I finish up. If I can find it, it's not a chemistry one. You can see a rubric drafting one, Socratic tutor one. I was looking for a biology one. First year lab biology, so we can forgive our biology cousins. So they've given the biology students, sorry, this is for tutors, this is for demonstrators who are marking, and so they've given the demonstrators the marking guides that they should use. And you know what happens with your demonstrators is some of them produce lots and lots of good feedback for the students. Some of them don't know how to do it, or the words that they write are very brief. So they have to write, they have to mark. And maybe they want to say to the student, and you all have demonstrators that write that kind of comment. I mean, that's okay. They might have written that comment. They might have written in red ink or in SpeedGrader or in Marking Studio, whatever you use. But that drives students mad because they don't know what it is that they have to improve. They only know that they have to improve. But if they'd have known what to do in the first place, they probably would have done, they might have done a better job. And so the demonstrator has put that into this agent. And now the agent is coming out with more detailed feedback for the student. You have to think about using this really, really carefully, because what you don't want to do is remove the human from the marking, because it's important that the human owns the marking. But I think just with that one prompt, we've probably got something a little bit more useful for the student to receive than just improve the presentation of the graphs. I'm not going to show you the back end, but again, it has the rubrics that the biology educators want. They have the style of the report. And in doing so, the feedback that you're seeing is actually really relevant to the assessment that the student was doing. So all of those examples that I've shown and others, you can build these little agents to do. So this is teacher steerable AI. This is actually getting the educators, us with our expertise, to be in charge. So this is the kind of things an AI double of you can do. If every student had a version of you available every day, I know it feels sometimes that they do have us every day, but if it can have us 24 hours a day, what are the kinds of things? Answering students' questions, providing personal feedback, coaching students, all of these things are things that you can build an AI tool with your expertise. You can feed it your lab reports, feed it the things that you want it to use, and then the students can interact with you, and you are involved because you set the rules up, just like Toby had done in that example. I won't show you these because it did work live. And I might just finish off with I had to get, AI is not very good at drawing. When I asked it to draw a chemist of the future, they looked distinctly male in their dress. So I did have to do some prompting to make sure that they were a little less looking like this. But this is what AI imagines that we will look like in the future. And I'll just finish with my email address if you want to contact me. This is a bunch of resources on our teaching blog. If you want to get hold of those, I know that some of your universities have picked some of them up, but there's some really good stuff in there, including some more details of the stuff that we've talked to today. Alex, I've managed to finish 5 minutes early.
Thank you so much. Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Thank you so much, Adam, for your really interesting and broad coverage of AI. And I'm sure lots of people will find it very useful, particularly with some of the tips we can use to save some time for us and what students can actually do with AI. So we have some good time for questions. So there's a couple of questions in the chat, but I'm also opening up the floor to questions as well. But I'll start with one from the chat first, and then if anyone has a question, feel free to raise your hand and we'll get to some questions as well. So the first question is from Dino. He's asking, have you surveyed students about their thoughts on academics using AI to make assessment items, or even if our recorded lectures are AI generated based on a script we write? Do students mind if they are being taught by AI?
Hi, Dino. I haven't seen you for ages. Very good questions. Yeah, I think it's a point in time where we really need to talk to our students. So that feedback when I gave, we actually give the students the opportunity to opt in or out of receiving AI feedback. And I think that's really important. We also, as Alex said, but part of my job is to teach academics. So we teach academics in our, what we call a graduate certificate. And we're using that feedback tool to mark academics' work in a graduate certificate. And they are really angry that we suggested using AI. The students, the real undergraduate students, completely okay with it, almost to a person. None of them opted out. They like the feedback being quicker. They like the feedback being more fulsome. They were not worried about it. I think we've also talked to them about AI generated materials. They are much less happy about paying their dollars for that kind of experience. And so they do actually want to know that this is produced by the academic. I don't think they mind if we use it in conjunction with AI, but they do not want the experience where everything is AI generated. And we did have somebody, not in chemistry, but in business school, using avatars that they thought was really cool, that was actually an AI generated teacher. The students hated that. They actually wanted to see human faces and have humans talk to them. I can assure you of that.